Hi, guys, and welcome to Vegan Booty Talks. I have a special person with me here. She is a coach, the first ever vegan world natural bikini pro, and creator of the blog and podcast, Shaked on the Beanstalks. Her motto is I don't preach, I inspire. And her biggest client success story was a meat eater turned vegan and won bodybuilding.com 2000K 12-week transformation challenge, beating out 3,045 contestants worldwide. So welcome to the show, Samantha Shorkey. Hi, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. I love your amazing successful story of the meat lover. We're definitely going to go and talk about that today. And I'm so excited to have you on the show. And I just really excited to talk about all the things around vegan bodybuilding and natural lifestyle. But before we get to my questions, could you tell to the listeners and to people who are hopefully watch us on YouTube, who are you more, like where are you from, and what do you do for living right now?
Okay, well, I don't have as sexy of an accent as you do. I have a very Ottawa Valley Canadian accent. And I grew up in the country. I grew up in a log house on 12 acres of forest, and we didn't have cable TV. We had a lot of nature. And so I fell in love with the deer that used to come on our property as a very young child. And so I actually went vegetarian at 8 years old because I just didn't believe in why did we love our deer so much, but then we ate cows and pigs and chickens. And I was a little animal rights activist from a very young age. And then I went vegan in 2011 when I learned that the dairy industry was maybe even worse than the meat industry in some ways. And so I've been, I guess vegan for over 10 years now and vegetarian most of my life. And I dated a personal trainer for 4 years who taught me a lot about bodybuilding, but he was kind of a total crappy boyfriend, awful man in every way possible. But I'm glad I had that relationship because after we broke up, I, of course, went full force with the bodybuilding and got into competing myself. And at the time, this was like 2012, and there was really not that much information out there about vegan bodybuilding, let alone for female competitors wanting to do bikini, as I'm sure you knew that as well when you started your journey. But yeah, so I basically, because I had a journalism background, I just decided to start my own blog, jackedonthebeanstalk.com, and document my own experience training for my first ever competition, which I ended up winning in British Columbia, Canada. And then it kind of just took off from there. I started doing more shows. I competed with the Plant Built team in 2014 and won the overall title there. So that's where I landed my pro card in Texas with them. And then, like you said, I had that client win where she beat out 345,000 people worldwide, having gone from meat eater to vegan for this 12-week challenge. And bodybuilding.com flew me to LA to present her with this giant bag of cash. And from that point onward, I was just, okay, I guess coaching is the way to go. And then it just kind of turned into selling my own protein powder and podcast. And unfortunately, I don't blog as much as I used to, but definitely the blog is where it all started from.
Wow. Wow, that's an incredible story and more than I asked for. So that's great. I want to point and ask you more questions on some of the things you are just talked about. But before let me clarify. So right now you're a full-time vegan fitness coach and entrepreneur, I guess, blogger or whatever, YouTuber, podcaster. That's what you do for right now, right?
Yes, exactly. I've been doing this full time for almost 10 years, actually.
Wow, that's incredible. So we're gonna definitely see and talk about how you get to that point. But before, let's back up a little because it's incredible. I mean, you was growing up on a farm. That's amazing, and I don't definitely can imagine how is on a farm if you see like animals being raised and then killed to eat them, which is like really crazy. But how the idea like of being vegan or vegetarian even crossing your mind being so young?
Yeah, so I didn't actually grow up on a farm, thank goodness, but I grew up in the country, so everyone hunted where I grew up. I was always the weird vegetarian kid at school. Like there'd be pizza days and I'd be like eating everyone's crust, because it's always pepperoni pizza. But yeah, I basically my mom was my hero. She was always feeding the birds and the squirrels on the property. And even still to this day, they have a raccoon plate where we put all of our scraps and feed the raccoons every night. My mom makes them peanut butter sandwiches. She has for the last like 30 years. And I just always loved animals because she was such a big inspiration to me, even though she is not vegan. But it definitely started there, my love for animals. And then, like I said, it was the hunting that I would see these dead deer slung up in the back of pickup trucks. And it was just so traumatizing to me as a little girl. And realizing, that this is cruel, but then I'm eating other animals. And shockingly enough, my parents were supportive of that decision at such a young age. But I was a really unhealthy vegetarian for many years. Like I was basically living off of fries and salad all
Mhm.
throughout my youth. So definitely was a learning curve, but it was for ethical reasons for sure.
Wow. And how do you educate yourself? So you move to this vegetarian and then slowly to the vegan lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
What like things you watch or learn? How do you know how to eat? Because I'm sure a lot of people are in the spot when they are clearly don't want to kill animals, but they don't know the other way of living. They don't know what to eat and they don't want to eat French fries and Coke every day. So, what those things that helped you to find the way without like other helps, to become a normal like and then eat normal diet?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it is tough, right? It's very overwhelming. It's a huge switch for people going from the standard American diet or very, meat and potatoes diet to vegan, of course. But then, I mean, this was also 20, 30 years ago when there was Eve's veggie dogs were literally my only protein option back then. Whereas now, as
Yeah,
you
it was
know, there's a
hard.
substitute for everything. So I think people are really lucky nowadays for making the switch because there are so many options and there's so many resources thanks to the internet and social media, right? But I think for me, it was more just I would still eat vegetarian when I went out, but I would just sort of start to do the vegan thing at home. And I was very lucky that I had a couple of friends who had started a vegan blog, and they were huge mentors to me in the beginning of when I switched from vegetarian to vegan. But then the whole bodybuilding thing, I mean, that was just me basically learning what meat eating bodybuilders ate and then trying to create my own version of that didn't involve eating animal flesh. And it worked. And here I am 10 years later, definitely more knowledgeable, but still doing the same things.
Wow, yeah, amazing. Did you feel like any changes in your health, in your skin, in your feelings, maybe in your recovery when you've switched to the fully plant-based diet?
Probably the biggest one was as a vegetarian, I was still doing protein shakes because I was working out, and every morning I would start the day with like a whey protein and skim milk protein shake, and for hours at my desk I would be going
Oh
this
my
like
God.
phlegm in my throat. And when I got rid of the dairy, that suddenly went away. So that was probably the biggest one for me personally. But yeah, I mean, having nice skin, people always think I'm a lot younger than I am. I just turned the big 40, and I would say people never think I'm older than like 30. So definitely skin health and digestion, right? I mean, what vegan doesn't notice how great their digestion is and how regular they are once they're sticking to, a fibrous plant-based diet. So yeah, all
Yeah.
those common things I would say I experienced, but it was hard too because I was already vegetarian. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
like I ever really remember eating meat.
Yeah, I feel you. Oh my God. I don't eat meat from 9 years old.
Oh,
So
awesome.
yeah, when people ask me like, how do you felt? I was like, you know,
I
I
don't
don't
know.
even remember. And yeah, so that's a really interesting question. But it's amazing that you felt those benefits, and definitely you look incredible. Oh my God. I would never
Thank you.
give you 40. So guys, if you are just listen, go on YouTube and watch. She is doesn't look, you look like 20. I'm like, you don't
Oh,
look your
oh,
age.
stop. I love you.
Yes, that's totally true. Okay, so let's see how we are can move now to your competition career. So you was vegan, but I guess you said you was working out always. So can you explain a little bit like how you actually decided to be a vegan athlete and get into the gym?
Yeah. So even though I said that boyfriend I dated it was such a toxic relationship for 4 years, but I will give him credit for introducing me to the gym. And it's kind of funny because, a lot of women who enter bodybuilding or want a big change, it's often due to a relationship ending, right? And it was classic case for me. Actually, what started was he was living in Australia for a year and just cheating on me. And here I was back at home. Yeah, it was awful. And I went on Craigslist. I'm totally aging myself now, and bought a dumbbell set and a bench and a barbell, like bench press setup. And in my tiny bachelor apartment, I would just bawl my eyes out and put on death metal and just hammer the weights every time I would fight with him. And so it kind of just took off from there. And then when we finally ended that relationship, sorry, he had always told me, "Oh, I think you have a good shape for bikini," but I had no interest until we broke up. And then I thought, okay, well, I'm single and have all this time on my hands, so why not see how I do? And then because I had a marketing background, I approached Vega, which at the time was one of the only vegan protein powders who happened to be in Vancouver, and they sponsored my whole first journey to drive across British Columbia with my vegan friends who had a pretty popular blog and go
Mm.
and compete in this show. And I ended up winning. So after that happened, I just kind of thought, okay, maybe there's something here. I should push forward and see where it goes. And here I am.
Nice. Whoa, that's a story. Well, that's interesting to mention that you was sponsored for your first ever show, which is usually
Mhm.
never happened. You have to have a pro status, you have to have so many experience, and then you have to reach out to the sponsor usually to actually give you an opportunity. How that
Totally.
happened? Like, did you reach out to them, to Vegas, or they reach out to you? How does that happen?
Well, like I said, because my friends already had a very popular vegan recipe blog, I sort of used them to kind of get my foot in the door and saying, hey, they've got a pretty big following. And I'm a local vegan bodybuilder about to do my first ever show against all meat eaters. And I kind of made this big, sexy sales pitch to them. And that's how I came up with the name Jacked on the Beanstalk as well, because I had to make it sexy to really sell
Mhm.
it to them. And shockingly enough, they said, all right, well, we'll help spread the word and give you a whole bunch of protein powder samples and protein bars to give out along the way. And it actually turned into a pretty big deal where we were interviewed on like local news channels and stuff like that. And that's sort of how I started to build up my own little Jacked on the Beanstalk Facebook page. And
Mhm.
I think, at the time too, there weren't that many people doing this. Like bodybuilding was not nearly as big as it is today, let alone vegan bodybuilding. So I think it was just right time, right place, and then going after it, right? Like actually going and approaching Vega, and you never know what they'll say, but sometimes it'll pay off. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I just really want to talk about that because sometimes I have a lot of questions about like how you actually do it. Like, people, my friends, athletes, or clients wanted to get some sponsorship or even like special discounts, and they think that those people are knocking in our doors, and they don't
mhm,
realize that even us, like you and me, being already so much experience in all of this industry, we have to knock on doors, right? You have to get anything you want. You need to do something to reach whatever you want to get. So that's a great,
absolutely.
example. You was no one, and you was just choosing to become a vegan athlete, and then you just reach out and they say yes. So it's amazing inspiration for someone out there who maybe want to, achieve the same career as yours or something like that.
Well, it's all about networking, right? And just like I was constantly offering them, do you guys want some recipes posted for your blog that I'll use your protein powder? And, it benefits them too, because it's content for them. But yeah, of course, you've got to take the initiative for sure and get in people's faces. Otherwise, they're probably never going to find you.
Yeah. So how was that, your first show? What did you experience and why you decided to continue?
Well, it's funny because I still to this day think that was the toughest show I've ever done, because it was basically Canada's equivalent of NPC. So it's an untested federation. So everybody's on all kinds of performance enhancing drugs and whatever. And there was a lot of girls I went against, but I trained my ass off. Like I must have prepped for 8 solid months of strict dieting and training. And I'd already been bodybuilding for at least 3 years before that. So this is for every girl that thinks, 12 weeks and I can do my first show. No, it takes a lot of work before that, as you know. And then, just, I always say I have horseshoes up my ass. Am I allowed to say ass on this show?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Booty talks.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Good point. But yeah, I just, and it's confidence too. Like I love being the center of attention, and I swear that I never had the best body, and I'm not the prettiest girl, but I went up there like I was the queen of the world, and just this big cheesy smile and took my time. And I always scored really high on stage presence, because I think I just gave off that vibe of, you want me, everybody. And that's huge for competing.
Yeah. Well, did you have any posing coach? It's actually a really good point, because I am a huge on that too. I think the stage presence is really can help you to win this show. So how do you deal with that? It was your first show, because usually in the first show, you don't know how to pose, you don't know how to choose suit, you don't know how to do your tan, and especially then, because right now everything is available online. But I mean, I'm sure back then it was not so much information out there.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, back then there wasn't dedicated posing coaches. I remember watching videos. Natalia Mello, do you remember her? She won the Olympia back then. She was, I was obsessed with her. Whatever Natalia Mello said and did is basically what I did. So basically, if you look at my first show or any of my posing routines, I tried to basically mimic everything that she did. And then I had a friend who was a dance instructor, so she was really helpful, because I am not like a sexy dancer. I have no rhythm. The posing was actually difficult, but again, stage presence and posing are two very different things.
Yeah, wow. Okay. And then do you have a coach back then, or you figured out your macros and your training by yourself?
For my first show, I was working with somebody named Jennifer Wines, off and on, and then I used like Scooby Prep for shows before. I have hired a few coaches, because I really do believe there's always something you can learn from everyone, and it's important to work with people who are complete opposite of you. Like I've worked with the most roided out male coaches that out there, just to see, because there's always something you can learn from somebody, right? But oftentimes it just comes down to trial and error, and taking all that information in and making it your own. And bodybuilding.com, right? That was the big one back then. All those forums and message boards, just reading them religiously and getting as much info as possible.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I don't even go to bodybuilding.com right now.
I don't even think it's popular anymore.
Yeah, it's not. But yeah, back then I heard a lot from people that was so huge. Anyways, it's still a great source. We should check it out. I'm sure they post a lot. We just don't check.
I don't even think they do that competition anymore. The big
Yeah.
200K
Yeah, they
12
don't.
week.
I don't
Yeah.
think so. Yeah. Well, what is your
Poorbodybuilding.com.
yeah. What is your plans right now? Like I don't really know if you compete now or you have any plans in the
I do
future.
not. I had a son 3 years ago. So it's been a huge shift from because, as you know, right, it's a very selfish sport.
Yeah.
Bodybuilding, especially if you're a competitive bodybuilder, it's a lonely sport, a selfish sport. And suddenly when you have a child, your priorities get pushed down the list and, you're responsible for another human being. So now I'm just all about doing the best I can. I still prioritize my training, but I don't foresee any competitions in my future anytime soon. Maybe one day, I never say never, but I just love training and I love eating and not being super restrictive. I don't know if I could handle the 5 bunches of asparagus per day and white rice with every meal. I do enjoy variety, but yeah, what am I doing right now? Still doing lots of coaching, still doing my podcast for sure. I'm actually launching Jacked on the Beanstalk gym gear and all kinds of new vegan workout shirts and hoodies coming soon that I'm actually pressing in-house for once. So yeah, and then my protein powder and just focusing on that stuff and helping other people. I got the pro card. I'm good now. I don't foresee me going back to it anytime soon.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. I'm excited to see your new gym gear and the t-shirts. I would
Yeah, I'll
love
have to
that.
send you one.
Yeah, that would be cool. Thank you so much. And you said that you got your pro card. So as I know, you are natural, right? WNBF Pro. Have
Yep.
you ever think to go to the NPC and then one IBB Pro card? Have you tried those shows? And what do you think the difference between those two divisions?
Well, I think it's a lot more competitive. Again, you're going against they're untested federations where it's basically expected of you that you will do it with the help of steroids and Anavar and clenbuterol and whatever other performance enhancing substances there are. And that just doesn't really appeal to me. I also, and I'm sure you can recognize this too, that competing can be very tough mentally. You need to go into it with a lot of confidence because chances are, when you enter a sport where you're judged and scrutinized on the most aesthetic level possible, that it can be really hard on your mindset and your self-esteem. So, and it's obsessive, right? And you have to be obsessive about it. And I for me personally, I don't think I could take that on. But I have so much respect for all the athletes that do. And I know like Natalie Matthews, I'm pretty sure she's all natural and she's an IFBB pro. And I also coach Nicole Guglia, who has now since become an IFBB pro as well. And it's awesome to see those people and I hope they do really well. It's great for veganism. But yeah, definitely a whole new level of discipline and dedication. And as a new mom, no, can't take that on.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, I do those shows too. And last year, I was a while. I did my last show almost 3 years ago. It was Olympia. And every year when I come back, girls getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I compete with them. And I do take a whole year off, sometimes two. Right now, I took 3 because I was like, naturally I just doesn't feel like I can come back next year
Mhm,
and then be bigger than
mhm.
you because you growing just like weekly, not yearly, and
Yeah.
then without some enhanced some drugs it's impossible. And then it's also of course genes, like my genetics is not allowing me to gain so much. It depends of course, and I don't judge anyone, but yes, I felt the same way. When you do go and compete in unnatural bodybuilding shows, you face the struggle that that you did your best
Mhm,
without any other unhealthy help.
mhm,
But it's nothing compared to people who can take a drug and then get much better results. So it's a
mhm.
little bit hard to take in your heart. Like it was hard for me. I was like, oh my God, I just like feel like it's not not my team anymore, you know? So yeah, I
So
feel
do you
you.
still compete or you're done with the sport?
I don't really think I done. I like to do it. It's fun. But honestly, like me being competing, I realized that it's unhealthy first. And like it's not about health and it's not about lifestyle, being healthy fitness person is about extreme. And then, as I
Exactly.
said, like for me, I already pro in the natural world, so I can do it for fun, keep going, and but going after pro card and IBB pro, I always ask my question: does it worth it? You know what I mean? To go to the
Yeah.
extreme. So I maybe gonna do it because I'm a competitive person, and I like it. I like to do it for fun, but I don't see it as career for my life because I
Hmm.
better do coach other people's and help people around the world and be healthy. Because
Yes.
when I compete, yeah, the things that I have to go low in the body fat as much is
And
when
losing your period, right? Like the
yeah.
fact that I would lose my period for 6 months at a time and during my most fertile years, like that is not a good sign of health. But the unfortunate thing is people see these pictures of competitors on stage and think that's the epitome of health. And it's actually
Yeah.
the total opposite, right?
Yeah, that's the problem I faced too. Yes, I lost my period for 6 months in a row and couldn't get it back, even though I'm a nutritionist. So I was eating healthy. My, body fat was low, but I still was having a lot of macronutrients, you
Hmm.
know. It just also depends of, I think, your personal hormone health. Like some women are more sensitive than the others. And for me, I guess I'm really sensitive to those things, right? So yeah, it's always like asking the question, is it worth it? Not worth it, like cutting out eating cakes and counting the macros and train hard. I do all of this. It's not different for me to compete or not compete. I
Well, and I
actually
think too,
do.
it's like we won our pro cards and right, we're both WNBF pros. And for me, I don't know if you watch Seinfeld, but it's like that George Costanza. You want to leave on a high note. I would never want to, that was, hey, I got my pro card, yay for vegans, yay for me, and then go into another federation and fail miserably.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also true. But as I said, I'm a competitive person. I like to go there. And I believe some of the vegan bodybuilders could actually won Olympia one year or Arnold. It's possible. And
Oh,
I
for
truly
sure.
gonna put my heart into, show people that is possible. And every time when I go, the reason, like the why behind I decided to actually do NPCs and then try to get my pro card in IBB was like I want to show those girls, those who aren't maybe on handsome drugs or maybe eating just this chicken and eggs every morning and then just like choking all day just like you was, that is possible. When
Mhm.
I
Well, and
want,
it is. Look at Natalie Matthews and
yeah,
Nicole Guglia, right? Like they
yeah,
are top level at this. So it's
yeah,
absolutely
it's
possible. It's
absolutely
just at
possible.
what cost, right? Like some people just want want to live a more balanced life, right? Because
Yeah,
it is very
exactly.
extreme
Yeah,
measures you
but
have to go to, right?
when you stay on the backstage and you talk to the girls and you said them you're vegan and you don't use any, supplements and unhealthy drugs, and then you go there and you won, that may change something in their
Mhm.
mind. You know what I mean?
And I
That's,
hope it does.
yeah, that's cool. So talking about the proteins, I was wanted to ask you, what is your top 5 of vegan proteins that you like to use? Because it's common question that we all get to be asked, like, you vegan bodybuilder, what do you eat? Like, so tell us your top 5.
Well, of course, I'm going to say my own Jacked on the Beanstalk protein powder, which is a brown rice protein, by the way. So definitely, I'm not one of these vegans that's anti-protein shakes. I do at least one, usually two a day. I always have tofu scramble, could always changing up the recipe, but like that is a given. Every day I eat tofu scramble. I'm also big into tempeh. I know a lot of people don't like tempeh, but I love it. And lentils. I do a lot of the bean noodles. What else do I like? Seitan, not so much. I just find it makes me bloated, and I'm kind of obsessed with not looking bloated. But yeah, lentils, chickpeas. I do a lot of
Mhm.
roasted chickpeas, and I make my own quinoa bread as well out of basically just soaking quinoa in water, mix it with a little bit of salt, blend it up, bake that, and it makes pretty good bread and really
Nice.
good macros. Yeah.
Wow. I would love to try. Do you have a recipe somewhere?
You know what? I'm actually putting the recipe up on my blog within the week, so I'll send it to you.
Please do. I will add it in the description down below because I think it's going to be posted after a week. So people can try your recipe for sure.
Yeah, for
And it
sure.
was amazing to talk to you. I wanted to keep going, but we have time frame that we cannot pass by. So I just want to know if you want to like give us some advice to someone who maybe want to switch to the plant-based diet or just already vegan and then interested to get into the bodybuilding, what the advice you can give them?
Uh, Probably remember, well, this can go for anyone. The 4 S's: soups, salad, smoothies, and scrambles. If you can make those the majority of your diet, you will have a pretty good shot at eating a very clean diet and also get a good dose of protein. So if you're throwing protein powder in that smoothie, chickpeas on that salad, tofu in that scramble, and some, lentils or bean noodles in your soup, and you're good to go. And then just always, I say to everyone, try to be mindful. Where is the protein in this meal? Stick to small meals spaced throughout the day, and keep your carbs around your training so that you can use them the best way possible. And just don't obsess over it. Just food should be enjoyed, but you should be feeling good with what you're eating. So if you feel good, keep eating. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Nice. I didn't never heard that, but that's amazing. The CCCs, that's so cool. I love
The
it.
4 S's.
Yeah, 4 S's. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And before I let you go, I want to just ask where people can find you and if they're interested in coaching with you, how they can reach out to you.
For sure. So it's jackedonthebeanstalk.com. You can find all those things. And then I'm Sam Shorkey on Instagram.
Awesome. I will add all of this information down below in the description. And again, I'm so thrilled to talk to you today. And I am excited to see more of your vegan, geared or, t-shirts, everything that you do. I would be supporting because I like to support vegan athletes and you are actually my inspiration now. So
Yeah, and I have to get you onto my podcast now too.
oh, of course, I'll be happy to, of course.
Awesome.
And thank you so much again. Have an amazing rest of the day. And I feel like we may be going to be back for the next episode
Sure.
with you someday. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.